So now we're going to go to the final stage of the optimization process. And this is, as mentioned previously, is another area where if we are efficient becomes important. If you ask reps to do their own planning, it's very, very challenging. You know, if you ask a very simple scenario of giving a rep 10 calls and saying, you know, choose the most efficient order, there are 3.6 million different ways of doing that. That's for a very simple one-day example. So if we're looking over a call cycle with many, many more calls and lots of things like visit restrictions, different frequency combinations, you know, the number, it becomes incredible. So let's have a look at a solution doing that. So here we are in CallSmart, which is CACI's web-based route optimization solution. And here we're going to get that next stage of efficiency. So it's almost like picking up the baton from territory optimization, where territory optimization has said, these are your calls. What we're going to do is say, all right, how do we do those calls? So if we just create a new project and call this one, just give it a name. We work in a 4-week cycle in this example. You know, you can work 1 week, 12 weeks, whatever it is. We're starting it from next Monday. And again, we can choose whatever units we're working in. And we're just going to do it in the UK here. So I'm going to flip that back to miles actually. Again, that is that TomTom data, that speed profiles data, which uses those realistic average road speeds, which is very discriminating between fast roads and slow roads within a country. We are going to take our information about the people doing the calling. So here, territory code, name, address. In the UK, obviously we use a postcode, but it could be that long. There are lots of alternative parameters we can set, which will determine how the route looks. So what day and hour are people working? Do they take a lunch period? And if so, when? Is there a maximum amount of driving at the beginning and end of the day that you would allow? Is there a maximum number of visits each day? Does someone's day start from when they leave home or when they get the first call? And again, different organisations recognise working days in different manners. This one here is optional. So historically, if a call was previously meant to be done 2 weekly, calls will be exactly 2 weeks apart, and that's what we call rigid phasing or strict phasing. That's great. Everyone knows where they go and know when to expect visits. It's not the most efficient though. If you allowed a bit of flexibility so that calls were about rather than exactly 2 weeks apart, again, that allows you many more options, and that will allow you a more efficient route. But again, that will mean that you're not exactly 2 weeks apart. So again, it depends on the view of your own organisation. We can also then determine about overnights. So how many overnights are allowed in a row and what are the parameters that trigger an overnight. We can then bring in the store data. So again, you can identify a name, address, either postcode or latitude, longitude. Whose territory do they fall on? Value metrics, information about the categorization, potentially different frequencies, different durations. And we get into some of the more nuanced part of the system, so priorities. So if there are stores that are particularly important for whatever reason, whether it's promotional activity, whether it's because they haven't been called on for a while, you can give them a higher priority and they will get scheduled. The optimizer will take them into account more early in the optimization process and get them in the diary. You can then start looking at, are there any restrictions to when a call can be made? And again, this can work in a couple of ways. So if we're looking at promotional period, you can put in like a time window that call has to be made in. Alternatively, if it's a regular, repeated issue, so let's say a store manager or will only see you on a Monday between 10 and 12. Again, you can fix that. And obviously they could work in combination with each other as well. We have a diary, can obviously reflect when people are available to work. So whether that's holidays or whether that's sales meetings, things like that, and obviously block out days that you don't want to put calls onto. And then what happens is that data all gets sent to CACI servers. So what we're moved from here is from a previous desktop version where which will consume resources on your laptop, to a web-based version, which consumes resources on CACI's hardware. And effectively, there are two very big processes going on here. So the first one is using that TomTom data to calculate a very, very detailed quickest travel time from every location to every other location. And then we talked about that 3.6 million different options of just one day. This is where the algorithm is kicking in, and this is where it's doing all the optimizations. So it's using all those techniques and algorithmic calculations to work out, if I put this call next to that call, is that positive, negative? Do we throw it out? Do we accept it? Millions and millions and millions of times until we get the result that we get the most efficient route. And what that does then is that gives us a dashboard, which tells us things like total distance travel, CO2 emitted, visit rates per day, all those kind of things. And again, what we can do is just go and have a look at an example of a route. So if I go and look at Caroline's territory, obviously we're in the UK now. All these purple dots are stores on her territory. Down here, we can see effectively the calendar. So there's blue, which is the commuting time. There's white, which is the time of call. The lighter blue, which is the travel in between calls, and the grey, which is the lunch. And if I just click on one day, you'll see that, there we have a very nice logical route. And although this displays a straight line, that's purely for display purposes. It's actually using a real road network underneath. And again, that can be displayed as well. And that is really route optimization. It can be run standalone in the version that we're looking at now, so we can import and export data out, or it can be linked via API into other platforms. So it's truly integrated within CRM or whatever platform we're talking about. But effectively what we're talking about through this process is cutting travel times by about 25%, freeing up 10% of your resource off the road into more important revenue generating activities.